This is Father Andrew Ritchie, and you're listening to Catholic Inspiration, a podcast from my website at studyprayserve.com. These homilies, presentations, and retreats form part of my ministry as a Catholic priest for the Diocese of Superior. And now I invite you to open your hearts to some Catholic inspiration. Today is Tuesday of Holy Week, and our Gospel reading is John chapter 13, verses 21 to 33 and 36 to 38. Reclining at table with his disciples, Jesus was deeply troubled and testified, "Amen, amen, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, at a loss as to whom he meant. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining at Jesus' side. So Peter nodded to him to find out whom he meant. He leaned back against Jesus' chest and said to him, "Master, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I hand the morsel after I have dipped it." So he dipped the morsel and took it and handed it to Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot. After Judas took the morsel, Satan entered him. So Jesus said to him, "What you are going to do, do quickly." Now none of those reclining at table realized why he said this to him. Some thought that since Judas kept the money bag, Jesus had told him, "Buy what we need for the feast," or "Give something to the poor." So Judas took the morsel and left at once, and it was night. When he had left, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and he will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little while longer. You will look for me, and as I told the Jews, where I go you cannot come. So now I say it to you." Simon Peter said to him, "Master, where are you going?" Jesus answered him, "Where I am going you cannot follow me now, though you will follow later." Peter said to him, "Master, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Amen, amen, I say to you, the cock will not crow before you deny me 3 times. The intensity of this passage is amazing. Here's this intimate moment. Now, this is John 13, and it's a powerful, powerful passage. And right before this, Jesus has washed the feet of the disciples. He's giving them this incredible example of service. The master, the rabbi, touching the dirty feet of the disciples. That is not something that you would do in the ancient world. Jesus is overturning all of their cultural norms by saying, you serve. And the greater you are, then the greater your service. And that's the measure of the greatness. Now that's all just happened. But now, he's done washing their feet. The teaching moment is gone. He's back at table, and he's deeply troubled because he knows he just washed the feet of the one who will betray him for 30 pieces of silver. That's the setting. Here's this intimate moment. We celebrate here. This is the Lord's Supper. This is the Passover meal. This is where the gift of the Eucharist is going to be given in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Here in John's Gospel, it's the washing of the feet that's highlighted. The point that I share with you, friends, is in this intimate, close circle of his closest friends and disciples, Jesus is troubled because the betrayer is here. And Satan is lurking. Please see that in this passage. Satan is prowling, looking for a weak spot, and he found it in Judas. And we heard yesterday, if you've been following these readings, Judas is a thief. And he's been stealing out of the money bag. And we hear again here that he's got the money bag and he's often handling money. Jesus says, go get food. Go give something to the poor. And Judas does it. But what we also knew from yesterday is that Judas is taking some of that money and putting it right back in his own pocket. So we understand already that Judas has this weak spot. And then you have this symbolic moment, the morsel of food. Again, in the ancient world, think like pita bread. they would have stacks of that pita bread and some different sauces or oils, and you would rip the bread and dip it in some sauce, like chips and dip today, and then you would eat that bread. Well, here, can you imagine? Jesus takes some of that and hands the food to Judas. And we understand that the moment that Judas accepts, he looks Jesus in the eye. Jesus knows it. He's calling it out. The moment Judas takes that morsel of food, Satan's got him. The doorway has been opened, and Judas has made a choice. And just to make sure that we have this in this intimate, close circle where Satan is prowling and Judas in his moment of weakness, it's night. The forces of darkness are exalted. All of hell is ringing. The thought that Jesus will die is making the demons rejoice. It's night. We understand in that weak spot, that weak moment, that Judas is going to betray Jesus. He's going to fall headlong into sin. But then you have Peter. Peter, where are you going, Master? What are you talking about? This whole where I'm going, you cannot follow. No, I will lay down my life for you. And there's the lie for Peter. You see, Peter's also got a streak of cowardice running in him. Peter's terrified about crucifixion. He's terrified about the pain and torture and suffering that is the lead up to death. Peter says he will lay down his life for Jesus. But friends, we know that Peter will deny he even knows Jesus 3 times out of fear of laying down his life. Peter's lying right here. That's the point. You want to see another weak spot where Judas, it was the stealing and the thieving and the power and the money. For Peter, he's afraid. He's afraid of the pain and suffering that might be called out, the very giving of his life, if he admits that he knows Jesus, follows Jesus. Peter says here, I'll lay down my life for you. And it's a simple, bold-faced lie. Now we know that because we know what's coming. But Peter here he's speaking this lie. He doesn't want to look bad. Doesn't want to look like a coward. But cowardice isn't viewed in what we say. It's understood in what we do. And so the weak spot here for Peter is what we need to explore. And in exploring it, friends, we come to a simple point. Today, where's our weak spot? Where are we vulnerable to temptation? Where are we particularly susceptible to sin? Where are the soft targets in our soul that we need to be aware of? See, it's one thing to look at Judas, look at Peter, look at anybody else for that matter. It's easy to call out somebody else's sins. Today, let's take a hard look at where we are particularly vulnerable to temptation. Each one of us can ask that hard question. I recommend we do it right in front of a crucifix, because I think that when we get ready for Good Friday, when we're going to approach that cross, when we venerate the cross in church, we walk up, and one at a time, everybody gets to bow, kneel, kiss, reverence the cross in some way. And because everybody gets that chance to do it, we come before the Lord with utter submission, vulnerable, and being open about where we are so weak that we need Him to die on that cross, because our weakness is keeping us from right relationship with God and one another. But we need to dare to name where we are prone to temptation and sin. That's what we set before the Lord. This is why He came. And so as we look at Judas and as we look at Peter, we can look at ourselves. And instead of hiding or bragging or lying, let's just look at Jesus and allow His grace and mercy to come right into that darkness in our hearts and drive it out with His light. God bless you all. This is Father Andrew, and I hope this podcast inspires your faith. Now, if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend. And you can help me by leaving a rating and a review. I keep all my listeners in my daily prayers, and I ask for your prayers in return. God bless you, my friends.